Malo, the sound went out.
I'm actually going to go live on YouTube, so I'm getting the link.
The sound went out.
No, it's playing.
Okay, got it.
Kazani. The link is available in the event.
Malo, your mic is off.
Salufalava, everyone. Welcome to the Talanoa Vote 2024.
Malo, your mic is off.
And we're so happy that you're able to tap in with us tonight. Salufalava, everyone. Welcome to the Talanoa. And so before we begin, we want to be able to provide land and labor acknowledgement. Some of us have come to this land against our wills, without a choice, and by force. And some of us have come to this land in seeking refuge and opportunity for ourselves and for our loved ones. And some people have been on this land for many generations that can be counted. We are all settlers here on Turtle Island, and we want to be able to make the connection from Oceania to Turtle Island. And those of us that are zooming in from uh, the Ohlone land up north, the ancestral lands of the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm zooming in from the Van Yuma tribe, ancestral lands of the high desert of Southern California. And then one of us is zooming in from Hawaii, the ancestral lands of the Kanaka Maoli. So we definitely want to recognize um, the land that we are on and that we are living. The other aspect is also to be able to understand that this capitalistic economy that we're a part of uh, was due to exploited labor by enslaved Africans and indigenous people. So we also want to be able to acknowledge the elders, past and present, for those who um, have given of themselves uh, for their stolen labor on these stolen lands. So let's get to know some of our panelists for tonight. And first up, we have Angel. Angel Filimuahala uses he, they pronouns. He was born and raised in the Bay Area. He studied sociology and computer science with an emphasis in decolonization at the University of San Francisco. He's a multi-talented, artistic, creative in pursuit of expressing their truest, authentic self. Aside from his education, he enjoys creating art through fashion design, music, poetry, dance, painting, and digital art. They hope to inspire those who are of Pasifika, Latino, and the trans experience. Our next panelist is Meana Alexander, or May, and he uses he, him pronouns. Fueled by passion and purpose, May Alexander is an Afakasi Pasifika Trans Man, making waves as a community organizer in the San Francisco Bay Area. May uses he, him pronouns. May is currently a director for the Pasifika Trans Men Network, embracing diversity, creating change, breaking barriers, and spreading love wherever he goes. He stands tall as a pillar of hope and for change. And next up, we have Thorin. Thorin Black is pronoun friendly. He is of Oceanian descent from Samoa. They immigrated with their immediate family to Hawaii and has been tending to his passion for acting, singing, and dancing. They are a proud member of the queer community and continues to strive to build a safe space for the next generation of Pasifika queer folks. Thank you all for taking the time to be together tonight so we can discuss why it's so important to vote and also what's on your mind when it comes to the elections. So let's dive into some questions that I feel a lot of folks would like to know a little bit more about what you think. Are all of you registered to vote? And when was the first time you voted? And what about for a presidential election? So, Angel, do you want to start us up?
Sure, yes. The first question, yes, I am registered to vote in California. I registered to vote when I got into undergrad. And my very first election that I voted in actually was in 2020, the 2020 election for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Um, and that process was kind of crazy, just a little bit, because when I was the 2016 election, I'm kind of in that generation where weren't old enough to be able to vote. but it had a really big impact in like our, like our life, I would say. So I was really excited the first time to ever to be able to participate in voting at like a voting poll with like a voter guide. So yeah, those are like the first. I can hand it off to May.
Hey y'all. Yes, I'm a registered voter. The first time I ever voted was when Hillary was running against Donald Trump, and that was the hugest shift I ever seen as a teenager, early teenager, where you seen the leftists and the rightists, and it was actually protests coming together. So that was my first time voting.
Awesome. Thorin, what about you?
Yes, I'm registered to vote. Uh, I actually, this is my first, the upcoming one would be my first time voting. I have my own reasons, but um, yeah.
Okay, so our next question, I think I might change it up a little bit. Hold on. All right, so um I wanted to change this up a little bit because this past weekend at a Trump rally, there were speakers that were lined up for the eventual address by Trump. And what I wanted to find out from you all is, um, did any of you catch like some highlights regarding, um, there was a comedian that by the name of Hinchcliffe that addressed Puerto Rico as a floating island of garbage. And then Tucker Carlson was someone who said that Kamala Harris was Samoan and Malaysian, and then shortly after said low IQ and a former California prosecutor. Do any of you have any thoughts about that?
I could speak to like the comments made about, well, I don't know. I just feel like for some reason they feel so comfortable calling like US territories that are literally impacted by US imperialism like piece of trash. And I feel like the implications of that language is very a lot deeper than what people understand it to be. Especially as a Latino, like I know a lot of Puerto Ricans right now, they're going crazy. They're like, really? Like, all right, we're trash, we're trash. But again, like that's like the hateful rhetoric that they choose to use to like describe other populations, especially like I don't know why they always I don't know. It's just very it's frustrating because now like it feeds into the hysteria and the hatefulness that people already have, and it kind of allows and condones that it's okay to talk about like other ethnic groups and other groups in a very hateful way, and I don't appreciate that. I don't like it. And then yeah, I'm gonna just put that out there. Very dangerous level of language there, I would say. Yeah.
What about you, Thorin? Were you able to capture or at least catch some of that commentary in the past few days? Or just what I told you, what was said? Do you have any opinion on that?
It's been flooding my For You page on TikTok and my Facebook, so it's there. Um, just a lot of disappointment. Those are the people that are in office, and these are what they feel represent some of the groups that they claim to represent. Um, and it's just a lot of other emotions come through as well: anger, frustration. Um, but I feel like that also puts it into perspective why it's important to vote and why I'm just literally eyeing out my calendar, waiting to just jump into those booths and start voting people out, you know, voting new blood in that would help represent not just, the majority of the groups, but like also the minority, and I'm using that word loosely. Just we just need more representation in there. But overall, very disappointed and
I agree
annoying.
with you. Yeah, it is disappointing. Um, to have like the highest office of the land and the people that are supposedly speaking on behalf of this person to say such like reckless things, demeaning things, degrading things. Um, but I also just want to know, from your perspective of what you're voting for, what's on your mind in terms of the things that you're looking at nationally, like presidential candidates, but also what are issues that you cannot afford not to vote on? Angel May.
But
On this upcoming election, I'm actually huge on the immigrant deportation. Having a father that was an immigrant, having multiple family members that are, they make up the United States, and these laws are super strict. When it comes to stuff like selling, you can sell cannabis and you can get deported for that. But on us, if we're U.S. citizens, just slap on the little wrist and go out your day. So thinking about the families that it affects, thinking about what the children go through, yeah, that's the thing I'm looking into to see who's going to crack that code, who's going to make some positive movement in that area.
mm, mm,
So,
mm.
Um, were you gonna say something, Angel?
No, I think I was just like kind of piggybacking off what May said. Um, I haven't even looked at the ballot that was, I didn't even know that was on there. But like in terms of like higher deportation, it's insane. But I think something that interests me is probably like, I don't know, for California, I don't, it's not on the ballot, but thank God. I know HRT, especially access to hormone replacement therapy in terms of for like a lot of queer people federally. I know across the nation, they're banning there's a lot of anti-LGBTQ legislation specifically around um, just access to hormones, which is going to play a big part in if trans people are able to, live freely and exist how we exist. I think that's kind of where my focus has been on, because it's kind of insane how much effort is being put into banning access to healthcare that literally saves lives. Especially for me, if somebody like on an anecdotal level, um, I feel like HRT changed my life so that I was able to just exist in the way that I need to exist and to have mental stability, to feel in alignment with who I am, and just the amount of stuff that the other folks that don't really see humanize us for who we are, um, they're going ham, and that just means that we gotta go harder as a community, to make sure that we're safe and like we create like statistics or just vote if we're on the ballot that we're just gonna stay safe. I know California is a sanctuary state, thank God, but I know a lot of people out like in the Midwest and like in the South, even Florida, especially Texas too, they're not gonna be safe after this one. So that's kind of like where my focus is on. for this election. So, hmm.
Does that prevent like travel for some of you to go to certain states or cities? Would you rather just pass than have to deal with any kind of repercussions for, like, say for instance, someone knows about you, right? Um, and what if you're not passing? Um, has that ever crossed any of your minds to avoid travel?
Um, for me, traveling is a big thing. Um, so when you're traveling in the United States, when it comes to you selecting where you want to go, the representation is important. Um, so say if we're in Atlanta, like stuff like that, and the laws change, like I live there, so like to see how different from California, is a huge difference. So yeah, I would like prevent myself from going there. Like, hey, if that's gonna happen, I can't get my medication, I can't do this, I can't do that. It would put a huge strain on my traveling. And it's probably a disturbance, really, and it's unpleasant because I want to go there, but now I can't because of these rules and set of rules, and I don't want to be uncomfortable, so I'm gonna be safer over here. Yeah.
Right. Um, Thorin, you've done some recent travel for work that took you to the South. Um, how was that? Uh, did you feel like your life was treated differently, better or worse?
Uh, yeah. I was very aware that um, that I was going into an area that is not quite friendly to folks of queer folk, and so it was always like it was almost like a checklist. Usually when I wanted to go to places within the area that I was at, well, I would always like okay, is this area queer-ish friendly? Are there going to be more people, um, that I'm able to call on if I get into trouble? So it's always this like checklist, especially in an area that I wasn't really familiar with, but also it has a reputation for not being very kind to queer folk. So it's just, I find it sad that I have to um, do this checklist because I enjoy traveling, but it's definitely something that I feel I need to do in order to feel uh, safe enough to even walk out my hotel room or wherever I'm staying. And I would like that to stop. I would like that to just I would wake up in the morning, get out of bed, and just walk down the street without the fear of like somebody clocking me because I'm not passing. Um, but yes, it's definitely an element if I am traveling. For me.
Yeah, I've restricted travel in the past like few years just to avoid additional pressure and stress.
Yeah.
But I definitely get that. Um, I wanted to ask you all, how many of you are living in like multi-generational or multi-family situation or circumstances, or have come out of that?
Uh,
Yeah. And how would you say like this helps inform your vote for the people that uh that you lived with? I mean, aside from like you mentioned, Angel, anti-LGBTQ legislation, gender affirming care, what are other aspects on your peripheral from your lived experience of in your home? What are other issues that you're aware of that you feel needs to be advocated for? And, your vote is your voice.
It's funny you say that because I feel like the OGs, especially in like Polynesian households, they lean a lot more to the right, very conservative, very conservative, but they don't understand the depths of what their roots mean. Like I have like kind of like what May was saying, like my grandma, she came here as an immigrant and I don't think she's able to participate in voting, but that's a privilege that I have that she's been able to give to me because she had my mom here in the United States and I'm her descendant. So I kind of have to be mindful of when I am voting because I'm voting for her. But then even like I have an uncle, he's a U.S. national from American Samoa. I think they're able to participate in elections, yeah. But I don't know. But also on the ballot, it's gonna be reflective of like what's gonna go back on at home. But again, his voice is probably not gonna be as large as than us who are just like here in America type stuff, if that makes sense. Um, I'm not too sure, to be honest. It's like trying to educate everybody on everything at the same time. However, I feel like OGs like they're very stuck in their ways. So if they don't want to hear or be educated on certain things, they're not gonna want to. Mm, especially when it comes to like anything that has to do with like being queer. Because yeah, but it's not always just black and white, the spectrum. So
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'll just say that folks that were born in American Samoa, they're US nationals, unless they've gone through a pathway for citizenship here in the US. They can't vote in the presidential elections or actually any elections that are held here. Most of it is like bounded toward American Samoa. So yeah, we're not US citizens unless you've gone through a pathway to citizenship here. Uh, so that's something I want to pose to you all. Um, Kamala Harris proposes in her policy platforms like $25,000 to help folks with a down payment for first-time buyers for a home. Also, if folks are thinking about having children, there's this $6,000 credit, right? Um, and also if you're a small business owner or would be, instead of 5,000, she's raising it to 50,000 to start, your business. So that's one aspect where her policy plans economically seems like it would really help those who are in the middle class or those looking to be entrepreneurs. And then I know like one of the plans on Trump's policy platform is that he wants to get rid of the Department of Education and send that back to the states to manage. So I don't know. And then I think I heard that one of his proposals was to initiate tariffs on foreign countries that have products being shipped or purchased here in the United States, but I think he has a different thinking about how tariffs work, that in the long run, it gets charged to the companies, and then the companies then in turn charge the consumer to make up uh, those supposed like taxes on products for those for foreign countries. Anyways, what are your thoughts, Thorin or Angel? Like I just kind of laid out a couple of things that I read through both of their policy platforms and um anything appeal to either of y'all? Any of y'all?
Uh, well, one side for me is definitely a little bit more favorable than the other. um, I did hear about the his plan to about the education Department of Education, I believe. Um, that boggles my mind. Um, but I digress. Another thing, yes, I recently saw a video about tariffs, and um, yeah, but it also, I feel like he should know what they are since he's a businessman, but maybe that's the reason why, you know?
Right, right,
um,
right.
I'll jump in because
yeah,
they're
go for it.
about to fuck up the economy. Excuse my language, but he's about to mess up the economy again, again. Because that's gonna. He doesn't know. He should know. He's a venture capitalist. He knows how to run the shit. But those international ties are important to our economy. Hello, this is not his business thing again. Anyways, back to the Department of Education. I'm a California educator. Okay. I go ham for these kids. Okay. If we lose more funding, I don't think anybody else is gonna stay in education. I'm being so honest. Because as a teacher, as somebody like I put my heart and blood into educating the brains and the minds of the next generation, and we're still dealing with budget cuts. We're still dealing with budget cuts. We don't even get enough funding to be able to stay open as a regular public school. I'm teaching charter schools. We don't get paid enough as educators to keep on wanting to educate. That's insane. And then to leave it up to the state is, I mean, California has we have money, but it's not allocated this distributed evenly like that. It's based off of property taxes. There's so many different systems that's gonna mess up, and it's not it. There's nothing in between his ears for him to understand that he's impacting so many different lives. There's so many children that literally rely on the education system to just be able to have free reduced lunch, to have access to everything. And he's just like, no, let's just get rid of it. It doesn't make any sense. And I can't. This is insane. I don't understand. I don't understand.
Yeah. This is a perfect segue into just making this comment that all the views that are being shared are by the individuals that are expressing themselves that happen to be Pasifika Trans Men. Um, so it's their opinions only. Um, Also, I think when we think about gender affirming care, or healthcare. That's the umbrella. But underneath healthcare, obviously it would be really nice to have universal healthcare for everyone. Then there's also gender affirming care. There's also reproductive care. And a lot of people think it's just a woman's issue alone, but actually it also includes trans men, non-binary people. It affects a lot of people's living situations, whether they're in a family or not. Um, do any of you want to speak to that? Because I feel like when people think about reproductive justice, they automatically think woman, but it's also very relatable to other people like non-binary and trans men. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I so recently, maybe about, well, actually not recently, about 3 months ago here in Hawaii, they did the first ever annual. Well, they're gonna make it annual, but first ever affirming conference. Um, and it's just they invited a bunch of care providers, families who happen to have non-binary folks, trans folks, and it was just a bunch of people wanting to learn about what it means to be a trans person. And I was part of a panel there, and it was different walks of life, and it was just on how having gender affirming care is important, and just seeing all these seats filled up, um, from parents to like kids to like teenagers who wanted to learn more. It filled my heart with so much joy. But I would like to see that in a stadium. And I want to make that a little bit more bigger than a lecture room, you know? And so I feel that it's a good step, and they're going to do another one next year. So I'm excited to help out more about that. But I just feel that it's important, like you said, that um, it's not just women reproduction issues. It also includes, and I think there should be some sort of course, maybe in college or in high school, you know, that I feel like it will also help answer a lot of questions that a kid might be having about certain things that they're feeling, and to have of some sort of education or something to know about it. I think that would help them greatly. Um, yeah, I think, and it would also help mentally, you know? Yeah.
I wanna add on to what Dawn was saying. I feel like having the language to express yourself would have been super helpful for me, even in high school. Like when we had health class, I was like, this is very cis hetero, like normative, and I'm queer. I'm not even in the curriculum. So how am I supposed to know what it's safe to, like, be able to educate myself to be safe as a queer person? And kind of like including myself in the narrative, or just including myself so that I don't feel like, yeah, I'm not seen or visible. I think a lot of queer people, or at least maybe people of a trans experience, like have kind of delayed being able to exist how they want to later on in their life because they don't see anybody who looks like them. They don't have the language to express who they are. They don't, you know. At least that was true for myself. And I think it's a great idea that Bowen was saying, like just giving students or just the knowledge. It doesn't have to, like in just visibility, etc. That's why representation is so important because I didn't see anybody who looked like me who was also queer. Hello? I didn't see anybody who was Polynesian, Pasifika, or anything that was also queer to allow myself to know that I can exist and how I exist. The only other person was my older sister. And she's a lesbian. So yeah.
Yeah, same. And I feel like it also speaks to this idea of body autonomy, and how does that get legislated, where, people don't have problems passing bills to get Viagra or Cialis to men who need to, I guess, um, bring up their stamina, right? But when it comes to other people who have different needs for their body and their progression as a person, uh, let's legislate certain people. And so I think that's also some awareness around body autonomy and how that relates to gender affirming care, how that also relates to reproductive justice. And, you know, underneath this umbrella, I am thinking, there's many ways that we can be educated and be informed about like what proposals, what propositions are out there, because when it comes to legislating bodies, they have no qualms in legislating women, non-binary and trans people's bodies. And there's got to be better ways to let people know that taxpayers like ourselves, have a right to have autonomy and sovereignty over our bodies. Anyhow, thank you all for like chiming in on that. Um, and I also wanted to bring up a topic that I think is relevant because it happened recently with the hurricane Helene as well as Milton, devastating, North Carolina, Florida, gosh, Tennessee with Helene. But also, we see that this is happening in Oceania on a more consistent basis. What are your feelings about climate change, and is that a priority for you when you're looking at both presidential candidates?
When it comes down to it, it's a priority for me. Like we were saying, we haven't been for like thousands of residents were affected by the fire. So things like that, and then you come back across the ocean. And then you have, like you said, like in the all the it's something they had to support it, they had that energy. So trying to find a balance within the people, like it's not always give or take. It's like it's always about being humanitarian. And not always a business side. So whoever has that humanitarian figure or language or who's here for the people, by the people. So that's
I think it's also important because we are indigenous to Oceania, and our islands are sinking because of raising sea level of climate change. And we are not written into the dominant narrative of that unless we advocate, you know, because there's folks who go to the UN who speak on it and how, like, because Tuvalu is already underneath water, or I forget which island, and they had to hold their press conference as like virtually because it's gone. I think it hits harder when like because we're in diaspora, right? We're in like mainland, like in America, but back home pretty soon, like hopefully, but hopefully our narrative gets written into whoever is up there. But it's gonna impact us a lot larger. I would never want to see like Hawaii go down, or even Tonga or Samoa, Fiji. So, and especially like I don't know, we have such a vast ocean, but we also need to take care of her. We have a strong dedication to have to do that to the Moana and Malamana Aina the same way to like take care of the land. That's already in us, but it's I think I forget which one is more dedicated to climate change. Is it Kamala Harris? I'm assuming possibly. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't seen it.
Mhm.
I'm assuming that Trump doesn't give a shit. So yeah.
I am very excited for this question. um, well, let me just say global warming is real and climate change is also real. Why? I would love to tell you why. Well, um, the last I heard, Kiribati is almost gone. It is underwater. And people that are in Kiribati are finding other places to go because of sea level rising, because of global warming, because the icebergs are melting. Because of that, Samoa, oh, getting emotional. Ooh, Samoa is slowly fading. Um, we're seeing we're seeing parts of it go um, due to soil erosion, and our amazing Prime Minister, Fiame Naomi Mataafa, is trying her best, and she is meeting up with everybody that is trying to help gain fundings in order to help preserve my homeland. And I know for a fact that there is one nominee who feels that it is not real. You are wrong. With that being said, that is one of my passions, is trying to promote and to get people or anyone to listen that certain cultures and certain people are fading, not because of civilization um, deterioration. No, it's because of um, man-made problems. And I feel like because they're man-made, we're able to reverse that. But in order to reverse that, we need to do our part in order to turn back the clocks, even just for a bit.
That's a good point. Because there's many of us who don't realize, or maybe we do, that we're reliant, on, gasoline, petrol. Um, are we willing to get a hybrid car? Are we willing to like make certain changes? And also, I've read some articles that even going toward a plant-based diet will help like the ecosystem. Um, so I feel like, you're right. Like, what can we do personally? But also like looking at um policy platforms for either candidates. And you're right, there's one that clearly denies it. And there's someone who's trying to work with a more green policy platform, and more responsive. I think has been pivotal in rejoining like the Paris Accords during this administration, and then we'll probably continue it. Um, but it's devastating. Like if we don't make certain changes by like the year 2060, we'll see more and more island groups that will just continue to erode, due to high sea level rising. And there's going to be a whole lot more um, of our Pasifika siblings that will become climate refugees. And, are we just going to turn our backs to them? So thank you all, for chiming in on that. Um, Another topic that I'm curious to know how you're feeling and what you're leaning toward is, um, do you have any thoughts about um, maybe limiting the terms of Supreme Court justices? Um, the ability to expand the SCOTUS, because right now there's a finite amount of justices that can be, on the Supreme Court. What are your thoughts about that? Because we know that even though um, the former president wasn't even currently in office, the justices that he appointed were able to overturn Roe v. Wade. So I was just kind of thinking, what are your thoughts about expanding the court and then also putting term limits on justices? I mean, you can't be very effective if you're like, so much older that you're forgetful. And, again, it's like, do we want to make sure that even they have a dignified way of like retiring, at a certain age? What are your thoughts?
Hmm. I feel there should be less of them. And I also feel there should be terms appointed to them. Um, and evident to Roe v. Wade. I think I feel that it was. Hmm, you know what? I'm gonna get back to you on that. I'm gonna choose my words very carefully. BRB.
All right. Angel, what do you got?
Oh man, you go.
Or May?
It took it back in time. We went back in history instead of forward for once. So what you don't know, you're always going to rewrite. That saying stuck with me through high school, through my adult life. So when we speak about Supreme Court justices, this is like the first time in like history where it's totally left and right, and there's no in between. So when you talk about the terms, yes, they should have terms. They should have a limited amount of time while they're there. Um, they should be evaluated. Like, they go through a lot. They see a lot of cases at once. Um, so like you said, and the president picking their Supreme Court justice, there has to be a different process to that. I feel like this needs to be reevaluated to a point where it's by the people for the people. So yeah, that's my belief.
Yeah, I just feel like if you can't remember what you ate for lunch that day, you don't need to be dictating what is the next generation's laws and overturning anything. Like there's no way. Um, I don't know if we should have like a reevaluation setting. Well, definitely set terms because this is getting crazy, guys. This is insane. But yeah, I'm supposed to be forward thinking. the future.
Yeah. Uh, Lauren, have you reflected on the words that you want to express about this, or do you want to move on to another topic and then circle back if it comes to mind?
Um, I thought about it.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep it short because there's other choice of words I probably shouldn't say, but I will say this. Handmade tale. That's all. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'll make the, yep.
Yeah, that's pretty graphic, and uh, you're not the first person to actually make that analogy and comparison of what this might seem like, especially if Project 2025 actually comes to fruition. It is very reminiscent of The Handmaid's Tale, of what might happen to different type of demographic folks in our population. Um, there is one other topic that I wanted for you all to give me some sort of input and feedback, and how does it seem for you all? Do you think we need to have some sort of law enforcement reform with regard to maybe training, maybe removing qualified immunity for certain officers that exert excessive force on members of the community? Just want to get your thoughts because it was an issue back in 2016 platform about police reform, and do you think it's still vital today?
Um, that's a, I would say I'm a community organizer, and a bunch of reforms sound like a bunch of BS. Um, I believe in the alternative. I don't believe in funding something that's not working. There's so many opportunities to reform children by alternatives, giving them the pathway care that they need. And when I talk about reform, if we're going to reform, you have people that's doctors are going to college. You have people that's going to college to be a chiropractor. You have people that go to college for all these amount of things to understand what's going on, but you don't have a post officer. You can have a lack of education, not knowing no emotional intelligence, and go on to do it. So is that benefiting the community? No. It causes over policing. It causes other issues that you don't understand. And having police a community that they don't belong to, they will never understand. There's a lot of reform that needs to go on, and I don't believe it's going to happen over the course of my lifetime, but hopefully my kids, because it is damaging because we're going back in time.
Yeah. I mean, even earlier this year.
Sorry if you hear firecrackers going off. I'm assuming the Dodgers won and swept.
What? The Dodgers
So
won?
the neighborhood is excited. But Thorin, did you have any thoughts to add about police reform or law enforcement reform?
Um, I think it needs to happen. I think it, and it's gonna take a while because that um, we're gonna have to dig like really dark to try and to get to the root of it. And because of that, like you know, like May say, it's gonna take a while. We might not even see it,
Yeah.
but it needs to happen. And if it is, it needs to happen now. But I don't see no steps. I would like to see steps. And if I don't see steps, I'll put down the first step. Let's go.
Yeah, I think we're all in cahoots with that, of course. Like, there's no, I mean, earlier this year, we already seen it starting up again. And it's like, I don't understand like I was saying, why are we funding y'all? Like, what are you serving and protecting? Because you only serve and protect one demographic. But when it comes to, uh, let's be real, like, I don't even want to get into what's already understood. But again, I think they use that badge as a way to be able to exert and exceed their power structure, their power authority, and they can. They get away with it. And it's part of the infrastructure, how they're built into that. Now, how do we educate cops on how to humanize people? I don't know. That's a different separate conversation, but it's been kind of consistent and it's been going on for so long. And also, it's there's no time to wait for that refund. Just make it happen. There's a I don't know. It's like at least for me, it makes me think of if I want to have kids, do I really want to bring them into the world? Like seriously, because you just never know. Like, and that's something that I don't think any parent or anybody should have to worry about. But again, that's this is the life that we exist in, or the structure that we operate under. Yeah, they need to get that shit out of the
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I apologize in advance. I live in the LA area. We're happy. It looks like we won the World Series, so folks are just lighting up some firecrackers. So yay, LA Dodgers. Woohoo. Um, there's another
He said,
there's another question that I wanted to ask y'all about. So you know, like the state of Florida has like a ban on books, certain books. They've also have a way of teaching slavery in Florida, and they've also banned like using LGBTQ terminology. Um, Again, I feel like some of these matters that are brought up at the state level might have the appeal on a national level if a certain candidate comes into office. The same candidate also is said to have want to roll back Medicare as well as dissolve social security benefits. Do you all have any family members or friends that will be impacted should that happen? Rolling back Medicare and then also the dissolving of Social Security.
For me, it would affect my family members. My mom is actually disabled, not by choice. So she can't do certain things on her own, which Social Security helps her out when she, shortcomings to make her feel whole, and that's just bare minimum. If you can understand that. Um, Medicare that would affect my family as a whole. Yeah, shut that down. The lack of care, the lack of medication. What are these people going to do? Where are we going to go? Are you just going to leave them out on the street? It's like it's so many questions. It's like we're still fighting these questions like people need to be treated like people. And why are we having a pro quo on Medicare? So yeah, that's my thing.
my grandma might uncle, my grandma's better get social security. Still, those are my OGs. And it's like they work for that, but now I suddenly I don't get it. It's crazy. This is more insane than I thought it would. I didn't even know. That yeah, man.
I mean, it's a lot to cover, and I
Yeah.
believe like, for folks that might be in a house that's divided, where folks are conservative and others are more liberal leaning, that these conversations, when they come up, it's like, even when you try to explain to them that their benefits are basically going to be reduced or eliminated if certain people get into office, but yet and still, that doesn't change their mind in terms of like voting for not their self-interest. Um, but it brings me to this other topic. Um, Probably you've been thinking about it as well as your colleagues and friends. What is your take on both candidates with regard to um, their policy on war? So, with the Ukraine and Russia, with Israel and Gaza, Lebanon. Oh, wow, you are situating yourselves over there. Um, I just wanted to get your take because it seems like both candidates aren't necessarily like gonna do anything different other than like what I heard Trump say that you'll just have a talk with Putin. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Ukraine would be intact. But what are your thoughts about both candidates and their positions on foreign foreign affairs?
It's like having worse than worse.
Like, come on,
For me, to take the back seat while making the most noises, to be like, I'm here and I'm about to leave.
Right.
To start something, to supply stuff, and leave people out to dry is the most messed up thing you can do. To see the children, to see the families, to see Gaza, to see America go silent, but was so loud. Um, to see states that don't want to cease fire, to go out there and be a part of the community with my indigenous people and with people of the land, to see them hurt is a whole nother feeling. And America's not stepping up to say, hey, let me help you. Instead, they're saying, hey, let me help you. That's always been giving a little bit of this in your pocket. It was heartbreaking. It, it's no different than I would say when we see out here, like they just don't care. Like to say it like that, they don't care. They don't care to see people lying in the street, bodies there, this and that and that. But you're making deals with these people. You're taking out their pocket. You're making trades. You're doing all of this, but you're not helping them because you're scared of them. We all know.
right.
But hopefully, someone is willing to throw in that life raft for them and say, hey, let's team up and not think about it so politically and think about it so, hey, these are people that's dire need help. Make some ways like asylum here. Can they come over giving them the resources they need if you don't want to be so involved? So yeah, there's ways around it. So let's see if they can do it. Hopefully.
I mean, the United States is actively participating in a genocide. Israel is our #1 proprietor for U.S. arms and everything that we send to them is insane. We sent them how many money of our tax dollars? Billions to what? To go kill Palestinians. Insane. Yet our U.S. Education system is failing. Priorities messed up, and personally, I just don't. It's insane. It's insane. I think, like May was saying, like we it's worse and worse, and somebody really needs to. We need to hold the institutions accountable for our tax dollars. I'm not part of. I'm not. I don't want to fund that. I don't want to be part of that history. I don't want to be part of the reason why there's so much. There's a big disenfranchisement of Palestinians in this generation. Whole lineages are being wiped out. And it's insane. Like, why is that our priority? We have a lot bigger fish to fry back here. And there's too many lives that have been taken innocently. And it's still happening as we're having this conversation.
Doran, did you want to chime in on this conversation?
I'm with May. I'm with Angel. Yep. I don't. We're on the wrong side of history in this point onward, and we as the people, there's only so much we can do. But the people that represent us make these choices on our behalf. When did you ask us? I'll tell you right now. I don't want to be part of that. Um. No, thank you. Um. But there is definitely, where are those people gonna go?
So
What?
there's two things I do want to bring up that I've been hearing. One is I do believe the response was excessive, incredibly excessive. I do believe that a country should have the ability to defend themselves. So like Ukraine, Israel, I do get that piece. But once it gets to the point where the body count is astronomical, it's not hitting like the targets that were intended for. Um, it's incredibly sad. I mean, the death toll of innocent people should not be this. Should definitely not be this. And I do believe in a ceasefire, and I do want the hostages to be returned for sure. Um, but yeah, there's I mean, just the amount of aid that keeps going unchecked, you know, how many times we got to ask somebody to like not, keep bombing, like all their enemies. It's terrible. It's a really terrible situation. But what do you say to folks? What do you say to folks that are on the fence about voting? Because I know people are going to straight up vote for like Jill Stein, who is the Greenpeace party presidential candidate. Um, I mean, what do you say to people that, you know, because of this very dear issue, they would not vote for either the Republican or the Democratic candidates?
Um, I would say their vote will matter still, regardless. If you're not voting for the two main candidates, the reason why I say that, we have propositions, we have bills that are in effect, we have all these things that are in your community that's going to directly affect everything. So it's not always just about the two presidents on top, which it is. You have representatives that we need to go for. We have a lot. So reading about it, understanding the language, what's on there. I would say go ahead and vote because your vote still matters regardless. It's important.
That's a good point. I mean, uh, we know why we vote, and I explained to you why I do have friends that are specifically single issue voters. Like abortion is like an issue for a lot of my friends. And then this war in the Middle East is an issue for my friends. Like aside from all the other things to really weigh in on, those two issues have meant my friends deciding to vote for this rather than that. And so, like I said, for the Palestinian issue, the war of Israel and Gaza, that has led my friend to fully support Jill Stein. And then for someone who is into reproductive justice and the right to have an abortion, she's voting for Kamala. Yeah. So I think you know, there are single issue voters out there that is so important to them that they've made up their minds. But other folks that are on the fence now, I really find it, I don't know why they're still on the fence, but I respect that they just don't want to make a decision on who should lead this country. What are your thoughts, Thorin?
Please go vote. Um, it's important. I think that's where we come in. Um, because the people that we put into office is gonna help push those things that we feel would um, affect us and our next generation and after that. But we are that next step where we're gonna put that down. Um, yeah, so just vote. Go vote. Please vote. Vote.
Go to that ballot box. Put down your name. And you better make sure you check off. And when you're done voting, get you a little sticker and make sure you go to your coworkers and your friends and family. Post it up that I voted today. Okay? That's my message to the United States people. Whoever's watching this, please go out there and vote. Amen.
I have something to say. What I'm looking for is the next president to put more voting polls in the South and have more access for the people that are disabled.
Come on, man.
Yeah, that is a barrier in the South right now that is huge that we need to fix.
Those are great, to inspire people. I already filled out my ballot like before I flew to Portland, but I just never dropped it off at the post office and signed the back of it. But yes, folks, your vote is your voice. November 5th is the last day that you can cast your ballot, usually before 8 p.m., whatever regional time zone you're at. Check with your Secretary of State if you need to know where your ballot place or polling place is, or where certain ballot boxes are where you can drop off your ballot safely for mail-in voters. Next week we're gonna have a really like a we're gonna do a recap of the post-election. So hopefully there are certain things that we vote for that'll be in our favor. And if that's the case, hopefully it'll be a little bit of a celebration before the work continues. But I wanted to thank you all for your time and sharing with everybody your thoughts on the elections, popular topics that are happening with both candidates, and we'll see what happens in 6 days.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. You all have a good rest of your evening, and we'll talk to folks with a recap session next probably next Tuesday night or Wednesday night. Take care, everyone. All right.
Okay.